The lights dimmed as the live countdown hit 0. Across the split screen of millions of American televisions, two unmistakable faces came into focus: Tucker Carlson, seated with his signature smug half-smile, and Denzel Washington, leaning slightly forward, his expression unreadable, but intense. Tucker opened, voice calm but coated in condescension. "So, Denzel, you're here tonight, not as an actor, but, I'm told, as a patriot. That's quite the costume change." A few forced chuckles echoed from behind the camera. Denzel didn't blink. He leaned in. "No costume, Tucker. Just a citizen who doesn't need makeup to care about the truth." Tucker raised an eyebrow. "Well, you're certainly passionate. But passion doesn't equal clarity. You've criticized voices like mine as divisive. What exactly are we dividing, Denzel? Truth from delusion?" Denzel chuckled, but it wasn't friendly. "No, you're dividing fear from reason. You wrap outrage in a flag, sell it for ratings, and call it patriotism." That hit. The room went silent for a beat. Even Tucker paused. "You're saying I'm not patriotic?" Denzel nodded slowly. "I'm saying your version of patriotism comes with a teleprompter and a commercial break. The kind that tells folks to be angry, scared, and suspicious of their neighbor, because it keeps them tuned in. You don't defend the country, Tucker. You exploit its wounds." Tucker's smile twitched, but he held it. "I give people the truth. That's why they watch." "No," Denzel replied, voice razor sharp. "They watch because you know how to make America bleed, then sell the bandages with your name on them." The chat on social media erupted instantly. Hashtags exploded. People weren't just watching, they were glued. And the tension had only just begun. Tucker leaned back in his chair, adjusting his tie, a calculated pause. The control room knew this look well. It was his corner him mode. "Well then, Mr. Washington," he said, deliberately dropping the Denzel, "if I'm exploiting wounds, what are you doing? Sitting in Beverly Hills, lecturing Middle America on values you read off a script?" The jab was cold and precise. The audience in the studio murmured, half waiting for Denzel to flinch. He didn't. Denzel leaned forward, eyes locked. "I don't need a mansion to tell right from wrong. But let's be real, Tucker, you're not the voice of Middle America. You're the echo chamber of boardrooms." Tucker's smirk faltered. "You talk about patriotism, but the moment it's uncomfortable, you spin it into entertainment. You didn't stand up when veterans were called traitors. You didn't flinch when children in cages became punchlines. But sure, tell us more about your loyalty to the flag." Tucker cut in, tone tightening. "That's rich coming from a guy who's played more cops on screen than most cities have in uniform. You act righteous, but you don't live it." Denzel nodded slowly, as if giving Carlson the rope. "And you act like a truth teller, but you wouldn't last 5 minutes off script. You're not interested in America. You're interested in fear with a bow tie." Boom. The producers scrambled behind the scenes. The segment was going viral mid-broadcast. Twitter trending. TikTok's already slicing the exchange into sound bites. And Tucker? He was rattled, but not out. "You think yelling makes you brave?" he snapped. "No," Denzel fired back. "But silence in the face of a lie makes you complicit." The split screen flickered. This wasn't just a clash of personalities anymore, this was war. The studio's air turned electric. Every word now felt like it could fracture the screen. Viewers weren't just watching, they were choosing sides. Tucker tightened his jaw. "People like you love to talk about truth, Denzel. But where were you when small business owners were burned out during riots? When police were being hunted in the streets?" Denzel blinked, slow. Then leaned in. "You want to count pain, Tucker? Let's do it. I've been in rooms with mothers who buried their sons in uniforms. I've prayed with families whose kids never made it home from school. And I've watched you reduce their grief to a news segment with theme music." Tucker scoffed. "Oh, please. You're not the only one who cares. No, I'm just one of the few who don't sell it, Denzel cut in, voice rising. You don't report trauma. You commodify it. Silence. Even the camera operators didn't dare move. Denzel continued, slower now, each word like a blade. You wave the flag like it's a contract you wrote. But patriotism isn't about shouting the loudest. It's about showing up when the lights are off, when there are no ratings. Tucker tried to recover. Maybe if Hollywood types stopped lecturing working Americans and started understanding them, we wouldn't be so divided. And maybe, Denzel said, calm but deadly, if media figures like you stopped pretending fear was a virtue, we'd actually have a country worth uniting. The audience broke, gasps, nods, whispers. Even those who came in doubting Denzel found themselves leaning in. Something rare was happening, a man confronting not just a voice, but a system. And that system was blinking under the heat. Tucker adjusted his posture, a flicker of discomfort crossing his face. But he wasn't backing down. Easy to throw stones from your pedestal, he muttered. You're rich, famous, protected. You don't live with the consequences of the chaos you promote. Denzel's eyes narrowed. His voice dropped, lower, steadier, more dangerous. I grew up in a neighborhood where sirens were lullabies, Tucker. Fame didn't erase that. It just gave me a mic. He paused. You know what the real pedestal is? A primetime desk built on outrage. A platform where you never face the people your words break. Tucker shot back, I face them every night. My audience is the American people. No, Denzel replied. Your audience is fear. And you feed it with a silver spoon. The crowd was silent again. Not out of boredom, but awe. You could feel it through the screen. Tucker reached for a lifeline. So what do you suggest, Denzel? That we silence the press? Shut down dissenting voices? I'm not asking for silence, Denzel replied. I'm asking for honesty. For accountability. For a voice that doesn't need someone else to suffer in order to sound important. There it was. The truth in its most unfiltered form. Not crafted by speechwriters. Not softened for sponsors. Just two men, one defending a machine, the other exposing its cost. Tucker forced a smile. Strong words. But don't forget, you're on my show. Denzel leaned in, eyes burning. And don't forget, you're on borrowed time. Boom. The audience burst. Twitter flared again. And across living rooms in America, people whispered, did he just say that? Yes. Yes, he did. Tucker Carlson tilted his head, trying to shift the tension. You talk like you've got it all figured out, he said. Like you're the moral compass of America. Denzel gave a dry laugh. Nah. I don't claim to be perfect. But I sure as hell don't cash checks for sowing chaos. Tucker's smile stiffened. You think you're better than the millions who tune in to hear what I have to say? No, Denzel said without blinking. I think they deserve better than what you give. The words landed heavy. Even the camera slowly zoomed in, unplanned, instinctive. The control room didn't dare interrupt. Denzel continued. You play the victim when challenged, the patriot when praised. You shift shape, Tucker. Not because of truth, but because of views. Tucker tried to laugh it off. You've got quite the script, actor. Denzel's tone turned razor sharp. You keep calling me an actor like it's an insult. But here's the thing, I know when I'm performing. You've confused your mask with your face. That line shook the studio. Tucker blinked. Excuse me? You heard me, Denzel said, eyes locked. At least in my world, there's a director yelling, cut. In yours, there's no off switch, just endless takes of manipulation. The live chat exploded. Hashtags were flying, hashtag Denzel's Tucker, hashtag borrowed time, hashtag truth on air. Tucker shifted again. His posture now defensive, even if his mouth still curled with smug defiance. "I represent real America," he said finally. "No," Denzel said, standing up slowly. "You represent ratings. I represent reality." And with that, he didn't walk off, but he owned the stage. Denzel remained standing, towering not in height, but in presence. Tucker tried to keep control, but something in the room had shifted. The studio wasn't his anymore, it belonged to the moment. "Sit down if you're gonna preach," Tucker jabbed, attempting humor. "I'll sit when you stop pretending this is journalism," Denzel shot back. The crowd didn't cheer, they held their breath. This wasn't theatrics. It was a man carving truth into a system that blurred it for profit. "You call yourself a patriot," Denzel continued. "But I've never seen someone wave the flag so much while setting fire behind it." Tucker smirked. "I give voice to the silenced." "No," Denzel replied, "fire behind every syllable. You give volume to the angry and validation to the hateful. That's not voice, that's ventriloquism for the fearful." The producer signaled, break was overdue. But Tucker waved it off. He needed to win this back. "So what, Denzel? Cancel me? Shut me up? Replace me with late-night applause and fake virtue?" "I don't believe in canceling," Denzel said. "I believe in confronting. Like I'm doing now." He leaned closer. "And this isn't about left or right. This is about right or wrong." Boom. Another wave hit the audience. People weren't watching a celebrity clash, they were watching a moral line drawn live. "You ever lose sleep over the lies?" Denzel asked. Tucker's face twitched, almost imperceptibly. "You should," Denzel finished, and finally, sat down. But the silence that followed was louder than any applause. The moment Denzel sat down, the entire energy in the studio seemed to recalibrate. But it wasn't a retreat. It was a tactical repositioning. He leaned slightly forward, elbows on the desk, eyes fixed on Tucker like a seasoned chess player who just sacrificed a piece to force check. Tucker tried to regain the tempo. "Let's be real, this country's tired of lectures. They want answers, not emotional monologues." "And yet," Denzel said coolly, "you built your empire on emotional manipulation. Rage, fear, nostalgia for a past that never fully existed. Tell me, Tucker, what's your answer?" Tucker paused. It was brief, but real. "Security. Sovereignty. Freedom," he replied like a campaign slogan. Denzel nodded slowly. "Nice words. But freedom without truth is chaos. Sovereignty without justice is tyranny. And security that excludes others isn't protection, it's a prison with better wallpaper." The studio was now frozen in intensity. The production crew dared not breathe too loudly. Phones in the audience recorded silently, no one wanted to miss this part. Tucker crossed his arms. "You act like your truth is the only one." Denzel raised his brow. "Truth doesn't change based on who's holding the mic. It just echoes louder when you're not afraid of losing your sponsors." That line was a direct hit. "You don't understand," Tucker pressed. "This job, this chair, it's pressure. Every word is a battle. And yet you swing that sword with no awareness of where it lands," Denzel replied. "You sit in that chair like it's a shield. But all it's done is separate you from accountability." Tucker's lips tightened. His defense mechanisms were kicking in, smirks, eye rolls, head tilts. But none of it was landing. "People tune into me because they don't trust politicians," he declared. "They want someone who'll say what they're afraid to. And instead of easing that fear," Denzel said sharply, "you feed it steroids and call it patriotism." Tucker opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Denzel leaned back, voice calm but final. "This isn't about a segment or a soundbite. This is about the soul of what we tell America is worth fighting for. And some of us refuse to let it be sold for ratings." The lights felt hotter now. Not because of temperature, but tension. A truth had just been spoken on live TV. And no commercial break could mute it. Tucker shifted in his seat. The facade of control, the practiced calm, the smug composure, was slipping. He took a sip of water, but it didn't help. His throat was dry, not from thirst but from heat he hadn't expected to face on his own stage. "You talk about fear like it's a weapon," Tucker said, voice quieter now. "But you use it too. You act like calling me out makes you a savior." "I'm no savior," Denzel replied, eyes steady. "I'm just not afraid of calling a lie what it is." He leaned forward, both hands on the desk. "You tell America it's under attack." "But from who, Tucker? From immigrants? From books? From women who speak up? From people who don't look or love like you?" Tucker's mouth twitched. "You think I'm the problem?" "I think you've made a career out of inventing enemies," Denzel snapped. "And when real problems knock on the door, poverty, injustice, corruption, you turn the lights off and pretend it's Halloween." The crowd gasped. Even the audio techs watching behind the glass dropped their eyes for a second. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was exposure. Tucker tried again. "People want someone to fight for them. Then fight for them." Denzel burst out. "Not just the ones who look like you or vote like you, but all of them. Black, brown, rural, urban, poor, forgotten. That's leadership. Not this costume you wear every night." Tucker blinked hard. "You don't know me." "No," Denzel said, calmer now. "But I know what you do when the cameras roll. And that's enough." There was a silence so thick, it made even the cameras hesitate. No music, no commercial lead-in. Just the hum of electricity and the weight of truth. "Tell me this," Denzel said finally. "If every word you've ever spoken on air was played back to your own children, would you be proud?" Tucker froze. No retort. No smirk. No witty comeback. Just stillness. And for the first time that night, he looked unsure. Denzel didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He simply sat back and waited, for the silence to say what words no longer could. The lights in the studio remained bright, but something else dimmed, Tucker's certainty. His hand hovered over his notes, but they suddenly looked useless. This wasn't the debate he expected. It wasn't even a debate anymore. It was a mirror held up too close. "You think this is black and white," Tucker finally said. "That I'm either evil or ignorant?" Denzel didn't flinch. "No. I think you're smart. And that makes this worse." There it was, cutting through the noise like a scalpel. Not rage, not even judgment. Just disappointment. Deep, piercing disappointment. Tucker leaned in, forcing a grin. "Let me guess. You want me off the air?" "I want you to do better," Denzel replied, voice steady as stone. "You've got millions listening. Use that for something real." "Real?" Tucker echoed. "Yes," Denzel said. "Tell them they matter without making someone else the enemy. Speak truth without theater. Stop selling outrage like it's oxygen." The audience was no longer spectators. They were witnesses. They knew something rare was happening, accountability on live television. Tucker tried one last push. "I tell stories that matter to my viewers. You tell bedtime stories for adults afraid of the future," Denzel shot back. "But it's time they wake up." The room crackled with energy. Even the boom mic operator's hands were trembling. "Do you even believe half the things you say?" Denzel asked. "Or did it just become a role you couldn't quit?" That landed hard. Because Tucker didn't answer. He just sat back. And for the first time in years, the host of America's most polarizing show looked like a man unsure if he belonged in the seat he built. Denzel stood, not out of arrogance, but conclusion. The way someone leaves a courtroom after testifying. You don't need to lose your job, he said. You need to find your spine. Then he walked off set, no applause, no music, no curtain call. Just truth echoing in a room that had never heard it spoken that plainly. The screen faded to black for a moment, no graphics, no commercial, no outro. Just silence. Millions of viewers were frozen in place, unsure if what they had just witnessed was part of the show, or something bigger. Tucker sat alone at the desk. His hands were still clasped. For a man who'd mastered controlling the narrative, he now found himself at the mercy of one. Denzel hadn't shouted. He hadn't stormed out. But he'd left a crater of reckoning in his wake. Backstage, producers whispered in panic. Social media had already erupted, clips going viral before the broadcast even ended. Hashtags like #DenzelSpeaksTruth and #TuckerExposed were trending within minutes. Celebrities, activists, even rival journalists were sharing the moment. The network execs were watching too, some with clenched jaws, others with quiet awe. Denzel stepped outside into the cool night air. He didn't check his phone. He didn't rehearse what just happened. He had said what needed to be said. Not for points. Not for followers. For truth. And truth didn't need applause. Back in the studio, Tucker finally looked up at the camera. His team was waiting for him to say something, anything. But he didn't. He just stared, breathing heavier than usual. For the first time in years, he had no script left to read. Just a question echoing in his mind. Would I be proud to let my own children hear what I've said on air? The studio lights dimmed. The control room called for outro music. Still, Tucker didn't move. Meanwhile, Denzel walked past a line of onlookers. Some clapped softly. Others nodded. A few just watched him in silence, as if they had seen a soldier step out of battle, not victorious, but righteous. He reached the sidewalk, paused, and finally spoke, not to a mic, but to himself. Let the echo be louder than the noise. And with that, he disappeared into the city lights, leaving behind a studio still catching its breath. This wasn't just a clash on live TV. This was a mirror. And sometimes, the loudest truth is the one said in silence. If you felt that too, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that don't just speak, they shake.